Yellowstone scenery is amazing, but sometimes you need a break from the sightseeing. If you like adventures, things off the beaten path, or maybe a few hidden gems, here are our top 10 things to do outside of Yellowstone National Park.
If we haven't met yet, we're Matt and Cheryl with Where in the Rockies, and we're here to help you have a great trip to the West. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing is river rafting. You really can't do much river rafting inside Yellowstone National Park, so you need to go outside. And the good news is there are tons of rivers flowing from Yellowstone to the places outside, and you can raft on just about all these rivers with companies that are set up to do so.
What we love about river rafting is that you really have a variety of things you can do. We went to Bozeman and floated down the Madison River, which is actually right behind us right now. And on that, it's a very calm, laid-back river ride. We rented tubes and they create a flotilla where they strap them together, and you can even get a tube and put a cooler and a radio on it. You just float down. It's wonderful, enjoyable, beautiful scenery. Or if you really want some adventure, we love to go rafting near Teton. Grand Teton has some of the best whitewater rafting around. We also discovered last year that you can go on a nice scenic route through Grand Teton and see some beautiful scenery. We saw beavers and eagles and the Tetons in the background, and they even fed us dinner. And so that was a Triangle X, and we really loved our experience doing that too.
So beautiful. And by the way, the whitewater rafting down at Jackson is through a beautiful canyon as well. You cannot go wrong with that. That's world famous. If you can do that, you should. But there's rafting companies all over the place at each entrance. So up near Gardner, Montana, West Yellowstone, Cody, Wyoming offers river rafting as well. And then down south in Grand Teton and Jackson. So the cost's about $40 to $100 per person, depending on the tour that you choose. And they usually last about 2 to 3 hours.
Ghost towns are another thing that we love to do when we visit Yellowstone.
So we've been to a couple of ghost towns just outside of Yellowstone. The first one is in Cody, Wyoming. It's called Old Trail Town. This isn't actually a ghost town per se, but the owner there has gathered up a bunch of historic cabins and buildings and put them all in one collection in Cody. It's called Old Trail Town. The nice thing about this is they're all kind of right next to each other, and you just can walk through all of them and look at the cabins. And the cool thing is, Butch Cassidy's cabin from his hole-in-the-wall hideout in Wyoming is located in Old Trail Town. There's a couple of other really interesting stories that unfortunately I don't have the time to talk about today.
Including a bar with actual bullet holes from gunfights.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Old Trail Town was fun. There's a lot of cool stuff there.
It cost about $10 to $12 to go there, and I'd say maybe a 2-hour stop.
And then the other one is over on the other side, outside of West Yellowstone, is a place called Virginia City and Nevada City. So these are actually two Old West towns that are right next to each other. And they were really lawless, crazy towns. They're both in Montana. And Virginia City is actually kind of a commercial type of a city today. So you go in there, you don't have to pay an entry fee to go to Virginia City. You just get to walk the streets. There's a bunch of businesses like restaurants. There's a vaudeville show, which was awesome. They offer a few tours, like one on a fire truck, one on a train. I mean, it's a really family-friendly thing. They have a big candy shop. And then if you go down the road just a little bit further, you get to Nevada City, which is actually a state park. It's preserved as a ghost town, so you get a lot more historic buildings.
And I think you could spend half a day there if you were going to do the vaudeville show, or if you really wanted to get into it and pay to go to Nevada City. But for our family and our experience, we felt that Virginia City was great. This next one might be my very favorite thing to do outside of Yellowstone National Park, and we discovered this little gem last year. It's the Playmill Theater here in West Yellowstone. It's this quaint little local theater with some actually rock star performers and rock star quality performance. They usually perform about 3 plays a year, and they're all family friendly. They alternate between the nights. Last year we saw Singing in the Rain, and our kids loved it. And so tonight we're back to see Beauty and the Beast. What makes this playhouse really special is the personal touch they have. When you go in, the actors show you to your seat, and during intermission, they come take your order for the snacks, which by the way are delicious. We love their homemade fudge, their hot fudge sundaes, their carameled apple sundaes, and their Dole Whips. Their season runs Memorial Day through Labor Day, and they'll do 2 performances on Friday and Saturday night, and then they'll do 1 performance a night during the week. No performances on Sunday. Tickets range about $27 per person, give or take, on the weekends and the weekdays, but such a fun thing to take your family to.
Okay, next up is to visit some of my very favorite museums outside of Yellowstone. We got the Buffalo Bill Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming. and the brand new Military Vehicle Museum in Du Bois, Wyoming.
When Matt planned our trip to Cody, Wyoming, I have to say I was not too excited to visit the Museum of the West. But then when we went in there, I discovered that these are actually Smithsonian quality museums. They were incredible. The art in them was just beautiful.
No, it's 5 museums in one. That's why she's saying them.
Yes, I mean, we learned about Native Americans, just beautiful displays. Buffalo Bill Cody, he was an interesting man. The firearms, I don't care about guns, but I could tell that that was an impressive gun collection. And we actually went on a special tour. We had Kristen, the curator, take us around, which really made that museum come to life. The Military Vehicle Museum was also one that I was not too excited to go see. In my mind, I was thinking a dirt parking lot with a bunch of old, rusty military vehicles, but that is not the case. I cannot believe that a small town of Du Bois has this world-class museum like this. And once again, not super into military stuff, but even me and my mom, who also does not care about this stuff, we both went and we were like, oh my gosh, wow. The exhibits were so interactive. I mean, you could hear helicopters flying overhead. There was fake snow falling. It was neat. And we really gave you appreciation of each of the wars our country has been in. And wow, I just cannot say enough about it. And my parents, when they went, they actually got a tour of by the owner of the museum, and they said it was incredible. We're sad that he wasn't around when we did it, but I've heard he does this from time to time. And so if you were there and have the opportunity to have him walk you around the museum, do not pass it up, because they said it was amazing.
These museums will cost you about $20 to $25 per person, and the tickets are good for 2 days. That tells you something about the amount of exhibits that they have. We kind of recommend just going for a half a day one day and then a half a day the next day. But man, don't pass up these museums. These are really wonderful museums. Up next is to shoot a gun. How fun is this, right? So I've done this at 2 different places outside of Yellowstone. The first one was the Cody Firearms Experience in Cody, Wyoming, and it was awesome. The guys were really, really helpful. The whole business was like a museum for guns, and then their big selling point is that you get to shoot an actual Gatling gun, and so that was awesome, just cranking that thing and firing away at the target. That was really fun. The other place I've done is here in West Yellowstone behind me. This is called Big Gun Fun. Here you can shoot a machine gun. Now at both places they have a bunch of different options you can shoot, but I shot the machine gun here at Big Gun Fun, and that was pretty fun too. But comparing the two, the Cody Firearms Experience was a much nicer experience. Really top-notch place of business there. I think this one here starts at $89, and the entry point over at Cody Firearms Experience is $49. And then be aware that if you're shooting a gun, at least like a machine gun or a Gatling gun like I did, you're only gonna have about 30 seconds of fun and then it's over, okay? So you're spending a fair amount of money for a very short amount of time.
Going to Yellowstone does not guarantee you are going to see a bear, but we love to visit bear parks because you really get to see the bear parks in a cool environment.
There are 3 bear parks on the edge of Yellowstone. So the first one is the Montana Grizzly Encounter. So we visited this on our way from Bozeman into Gardner, Montana, into the north entrance of Yellowstone. It's just a quick roadside stop right up the freeway. It's a very small little spot with only, I think, about 4 bears, but they only bring out 1 at a time. And it's no fuss. You just pay your money, you go in, and you're standing right next to this bear. We were standing next to Bella the bear, who was playing with the log, and she was so playful. It was really, really fun. Really cool for our kids. Super plain, but really nice to see that grizzly up close. The next one is the Grizzly and Wolf Discovery Center. This is in West Yellowstone, so it's right on the edge of the park. If you're staying in West Yellowstone, try to fit this into your agenda if you can. This is a really wonderful rescue facility that rescues wolves and bears. So you go there, they bring out a couple of bears at a time, they rotate them out so they're ready to play when they come out, and then they have an enclosure of wolves as well. You can't see them quite up as close as you can with the Montana Grizzly Encounter, but it's a really nice facility with a museum. They have other animals there too, like otters. They have a nice otter enclosure, they have eagles and some other birds, and the wolves are awesome.
And these are rescued animals. They had to be removed from their natural environment because of problems, and so this is the organization's effort to save these animals and to keep them in a pretty natural environment where guests can still view them.
The Montana Grizzly Encounter is also a rescue facility. The third one that we've been to, and we've been to quite a few times, kind of a family favorite, is called Bear World. It's in Rexburg, Idaho. You'd most likely visit this if you were coming up to Yellowstone from, say, Salt Lake City. You'd hit it on the way. It's a drive-through park. It's more like a zoo. You pay your money. It's a little bit more expensive. You drive through the enclosure. They have elk, they have deer, they have bears, grizzlies, black bears, and you're driving right alongside them. And then when you park, they have a little petting zoo that the kids can pet some animals. They have a couple of little rides for the kids. They have a moose there. They have some fudge. So that's kind of like a little zoo, and it's been a family favorite of ours for quite a while.
So if you're wanting to go to these things, you can plan on paying about $12 to $16 to go to one of the rescues. You can probably plan on spending maybe half an hour to an hour at these places. These are open year-round. Your ticket does get you in for 2 days, so you can just kind of pop in and see the bears and then leave. The Bear World is more of an experience where I'd say at least half a day. You can drive through there as much as you want. They'll let you drive through unlimited times. It usually takes our family about half a day, but one of our children's favorite memories.
Okay, up next is to visit a very tragic and historic site called Earthquake Lake. This is on the west side near West Yellowstone.
And it caught our eye because as we drove into the park, we would see this lake with these hauntingly protruding trees, and we kind of wondered what the story was. But on August 17th, 1959, a tragic earthquake struck this valley, and the water overflowed from the dam and created a whole new lake. Several people were killed. And it's not that we are into celebrating this, but we like to honor the people that were killed in this. And we also, it's kind of a nice experience to know about how the communities of separate states came together to help these people. But they really do a nice job of presenting that story. The area is kind of cool, and it's neat to know the story of why those trees are poking out of the lake, even 70 years later. It's just amazing. Plus, it's really off the beaten path. A lot of times you're trying to escape from the crowds in Yellowstone, and so you're getting to be out in nature by the lakes, but you're not having to deal with the crowds.
It's kind of a scenic little drive just to get out there anyway. It's free, so that's a nice bonus. It is only open from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's run by the Forest Service, and they have a nice little kind of memorial walk with some plaques on some of the boulders. It really is an interesting story and something that is definitely worth your time visiting from West Yellowstone.
If you spend a day walking around the Mammoth Terraces, you might start thinking about getting in some relaxing hot springs, which you cannot do in Yellowstone. But the good news is there's actually a couple of natural hot springs in the area that you can go to.
So we have experienced 2 of these hot springs, and they're both just outside of the north gate of Yellowstone near Gardner, Montana. So the first one is Chico Hot Springs. This is a historic resort. Some very famous people stay at this resort. It's been around over 100 years. They have some really historic buildings, and they serve dinner, and it's a nice resort. But you can also just go to the hot springs there if you would like. And the hot springs is kind of like a big pool, and it's fun for the kids to play in, and it's got a nice backdrop with the mountains behind it, and it's just a really family-friendly environment. You can get some food and eat it on the edge, and that's a pretty nice one. And we stayed at the resort too, and that's a cool place to stay at. Like I say, really historic place, beautiful gardens. Chico Hot Springs, really like that place. Last winter, we came to Yellowstone, and we went to Yellowstone Hot Springs. It's actually a business outside of Gardner, Montana called Yellowstone Hot Springs. It's a fairly new facility, I believe, and it was
2019.
really nice. 2019, and it was really nice facility to go soak in the hot springs there. It was so unbearably cold that night. Oh my gosh, the hot springs were just a delight to sit in. The problem was getting out of them, of course. It was so cold, but really beautiful spot to sit in some hot springs, and really big, large area, great for families as well. I mean, both of these awesome places.
At the Chico Hot Springs, the pool is always 98 degrees, but at the Yellowstone Hot Springs, there's a few different pools ranging from 68 to I think 104, and so you can kind of choose your flavor, but it is a newer facility. The one thing I like about the Yellowstone Hot Springs is that it's well water mixed with mineral water, so you don't quite get that salty feeling that sometimes you get at those normal hot springs. But like Matt said, they're in the northern end of the park. They both cost $12. They're both open year-round, and if I were to have to make a choice, I would go to the Yellowstone Hot Springs just because it's so close to the entrance. Chico's about an hour away. I'd go to the Yellowstone Hot Springs. There's a lot more. It's a newer facility. It's pretty nice.
I agree. Okay, up next is to go to a rodeo.
You're out west, so why not? We went to the Yellowstone Rodeo just outside in West Yellowstone, and this is a very small town rodeo. And something that was pretty cool about it is they offered a little horseback ride beforehand you could pay a little bit of extra money for. So our family went on a little horseback ride, and then we came back at sunset just in time for the rodeo to start. And this is small town. I mean, wooden bleachers. They have a fun, rodeo announcers are always great no matter what rodeo you're at. But very patriotic. They had mutton busting. Kids were out chasing the cow trying to get the ribbon, barrel racing, bronco riding. And the nice thing I like about the small town rodeos is that they're short. It's not that rodeos are boring, but they can get pretty long. This one only lasts about an hour and a half, so it's just perfect. Our family really enjoyed going to this.
Okay, if you want to make this happen for you, just know that there's the West Yellowstone one that Cheryl talked about. There's also one in Jackson, Wyoming, south. We have not been to that one, but that's a little bit larger than the West Yellowstone one. And then there's a much more famous one in Cody, Wyoming. They have the Cody Nightly Rodeo. I think it's the world's longest running nightly rodeo. And then every year, once a year around the 4th of July, they have a really big rodeo where all the major rodeo superstars come and participate in that one. That's a really well-known thing, draws people from all over. And so Cody would be the one that I would go to. When we visited Cody, we were there the day before the rodeo started, so we just missed out. That was kind of a bummer. But that's the one I would go to if I could go to any of the three. Just note that Jackson is a little more expensive, as is everything in Jackson. That's like $50 for the rodeo, where the ones in West Yellowstone and Cody are only like $20 for the rodeo.
Many people travel to the west to see wild horses, and the good news is there's actually a couple of places to see those right outside of Yellowstone.
This is honestly one of the more authentic Western experiences you'll get, because there are wild horses or Mustangs that do roam around the West, and they're protected by law. Some of them are actually rounded up in some corrals, and so this is one of them that we went to, which is near Pinedale, Wyoming. And this was really fun because they took us on a little ATV ride out amongst the horses, and because they're kind of rounded up in corrals, they're wild, but they're not like super wild. And so they came up to our ATV, and our kids really enjoyed it. The horse was right next to Cheryl.
I beg to differ. They try to eat your four-wheeler or rub their butt on it. I was a little scared for my safety, to be honest.
This is called the Wind River Wild Horse Range, and I thought it was super fun. It was awesome, and it was so cool to be right up close to those wild horses. Now, the other one that we did is in Cody, Wyoming, and it's called the McCulloch Peaks Wild Horse Range, and it's really just a wild horse range. I mean, you could just drive out there and look for them. Anybody can drive out there and look for them. They're wild. You can't get too close to them. They might attack you. The best way to do it, I think, and what we did is we got a tour. We booked a tour, and a guy took us out there who was really familiar with the landscape and where the horses normally are. He took us out there in a van, searched for quite a while, actually. It took him quite a while to find him, which was another reason why I was glad we did a tour, because we probably wouldn't have ever found him. And we ended up finding him at the very end, and it was really cool just out there on this Wyoming range, just out on the plains with the wind blowing and those wild horses standing there. I thought it was quite majestic and cool, and I know a lot of tourists are really into those horses and want to see that. So 2 places where you can go check out some wild horses.
And that's about 2 hours to half a day depending on what you do on the tour, and they cost between $45 and $55. You do have to make special arrangements to go to the corralled one, but the other one you just book your tour. But if you want to know what we actually do when we are in Yellowstone National Park, including where we stay and what we eat and just all the activities we love, check out our trip planner. It'll help you be ready for your trip to Yellowstone.
Thanks for watching. Until next time, go west, young traveler.